You know, there is a specific smell when 100 years of history burns down. It's not just the scent of charred pine and melting tar paper. It's the smell of memories turning into ash. I stood there that night, watching the orange glow reflect off the clouds, listening to the sirens wailing in the distance, and I realized something fundamental about human nature. Some people, they see a man in a beat-up truck wearing stained Carhartts, and they see a victim. They see someone they can crush. They see a relic. But what they don't see, what that woman with her HOA bylaws and her shiny white Range Rover failed to understand, is that the land doesn't belong to the people who put up the fences. The land belongs to the people who bleed for it. My name is Elias, and for 42 years, I've woken up before the sun to tend the same dirt my grandfather bought with money he scraped together after the war. People in town, they know me as the guy who grows the best sweet corn in the county and runs a modest herd of cattle. I drive a 1998 Ford that sounds like a tractor when it starts, and my wife, Martha, she still cans her own vegetables because store-bought just doesn't taste right. To the outside observer, we look like we're barely scraping by, just simple folks clinging to a dying way of life. And that's exactly how I like it. See, what people don't know, what I never felt the need to broadcast, is that farming taught me the value of compound interest and patience. When the neighbors sold out during the hard times in the 80s, I bought. When the timber company liquidated their assets in the 90s, I bought. I didn't buy fancy cars or go on cruises. I bought dirt, acre by acre, parcel by parcel, until the 50 acres I inherited turned into nearly 800 acres of prime, contiguous agricultural land. But I kept it quiet. I kept the titles in trusts and LLCs, not to be secretive, but because in my line of work, being flashy just attracts pests. But 5 years ago, the pests came anyway. It started about 2 miles east of my main house. A developer from the city bought the old Henderson place, about 40 acres that had gone fallow, and decided to build the gables at Willow Creek. 30 luxury homes, all gray siding and white trim, selling for $1 million a pop. They marketed it as country living refined. You know the type. People who want the view of a pasture but complain if they see a cow taking a dump. Now, here is the kicker, the detail that would eventually be their undoing. The Henderson place was an island. When Old Man Henderson sold it, he didn't care who bought it. But 6 months after that sale, I quietly purchased the 3 massive parcels that completely surrounded it. Drainage issues, the realtors said. Bad investment, they said. Perfect for grazing, I said. So, effectively, this luxury development was a donut hole, and I owned the donut. For a few years, it was fine. The rich folks stayed in their gated community, and I stayed in my fields. But then came Cynthia. I met Cynthia Vance on a Tuesday morning in May. I was out checking the fence line on the south pasture, the one that borders their manicured nature trail, when I saw her. She was marching across my field, not the trail, mind you, but my actual pasture, wearing white linen pants and high heels that were sinking into the mud with every step. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine and strayed into a cow pie. "Excuse me," she shouted, waving a manicured hand. "Hey, you, stop right there." I leaned against a fence post, tipped my hat back, and waited. It took her about 3 minutes to navigate the uneven ground, and by the time she got to me, she was sweating and looking at my boots with pure disgust. "Are you the help?" she asked, looking around for someone in charge. "Is the owner around?" "I'm the owner," I said, keeping it short. "Can I help you, ma'am? You're standing in a fresh patch of clover I just seeded." She scoffed, actually rolled her eyes. "I'm Cynthia Vance, president of the Gables HOA. We need to have a serious conversation about the state of this facility." She gestured vaguely at my cattle, who were happily chewing cud and minding their own business. "Facility?" I asked. "It's a farm, ma'am." "It's an eyesore," she corrected, snapping her fingers like she was waking up a daydreamer. "Look, we're expanding the HOA sphere of influence to include the surrounding buffer zones. It's for property value protection. We're going to need you to sign some paperwork, pay the initiation fee, and bring this land up to code. You know, hide the machinery, limit the livestock noise, maybe plant some decorative hedges to screen this mess." I stared at her. I've negotiated grain prices with cutthroat commodities brokers, but this was a special kind of delusion. "Ma'am," I said, my voice low and steady, "I don't know how things work where you come from, but out here, fences mean something. You're on my land. I'm not joining your club, And my cows don't care about your property values. Her face went a shade of red that clashed with her lipstick. This isn't a request, she hissed. We have connections with the county. We have lawyers. You're obstructing progress. If you don't cooperate, we can make your life very difficult. Fines, inspections, zoning reviews. Do you have the money to fight a legal battle, old man? She looked me up and down, taking in the grease stains on my jeans and the calluses on my hands, and she smiled. It was a predatory smile. She thought she was looking at prey. I think you should get off my property, I said. You haven't heard the last of this, she threatened, turning around and wobbling back toward her McMansion. I went home and told Martha. She just sighed, wiping flour off her hands. Rich folks get bored, Elias, she said. They'll find a new hobby soon enough. But Cynthia didn't get bored. She got obsessed. It started with the paperwork. A week later, 3 black SUVs rolled up my dirt driveway. It looked like a presidential motorcade for the suburbs. Cynthia stepped out, flanked by 5 guys in polo shirts that said community enforcement. They handed me a binder. A literal binder. You have 48 hours, Cynthia announced, standing by my front porch like she was conquering a hill. Initiation fee is $500. Monthly dues are $200. And we've already assessed fines for the odor and the noise. That's another $500 a day until you comply. I flipped through the binder. It was insane. Rules about grass height in a hay field. Rules about unauthorized animal sounds before 8 a.m. Rules about the color of my barn. You can't enforce this, I told her. I never signed anything. One of the goons stepped forward, crossing his arms. We have the county's ears, sir. We can shut you down on health code violations alone. Do you really want to lose your livelihood over stubbornness? Get off my land, I said. Have it your way, Cynthia replied. But don't say we didn't warn you. The harassment that followed was systematic. They called the EPA claiming I was dumping chemicals. The inspector came out, drank a glass of iced tea with me, found nothing, and left. They called animal control claiming I was starving my herd. The vet came out, laughed, and gave my bull a pat on the head. They filed noise complaints every time I started my tractor. But when bureaucracy failed, they turned to vandalism. My mailbox was spray-painted with "Pay Up." Fences were cut in the middle of the night. High-tensile wire snipped with bolt cutters, letting my calves wander onto the road. I spent thousands on repairs and fines for loose livestock. But I still refused to break. I just fixed the fence, filed a report with a sheriff who couldn't do much without video evidence, and kept working. Then, they crossed the line. The line you don't cross with a man who raises animals. It was a Tuesday in October. Martha called me from the field, crying. I've been married to that woman for 40 years, and I've seen her cry twice. Once when her mother died, and once when our son moved away. I raced back. 12 of my prize heifers were dead. Foam at the mouth, bloated, suffering. The vet confirmed it was antifreeze mixed with sweet feed, dumped right over the fence line. It was a slow, agonizing death. Who does this? Martha sobbed, holding the head of a calf she had bottle-fed just months before. Who kills innocent creatures over a property dispute? I didn't cry. I felt something inside me turn into cold iron. I looked toward the luxury houses on the hill, gleaming in the sunset, and I knew. This wasn't a dispute anymore. It was war. 2 weeks later, at 2 a.m., I woke up to the smell of smoke. My hay barn, the big timber frame one my grandfather built by hand in 1948, was an inferno. The heat was so intense it cracked the windows of my truck parked 50 yards away. We lost everything in that barn. $50,000 in equipment, a winter's worth of hay, and the history. All of it, gone in a roar of orange and black. The fire marshal found traces of accelerant. Arson, but no witnesses. No cameras in the cornfield. The next morning, standing in the smoking ruins, ashes still drifting down like gray snow, Cynthia showed up. She didn't look sad. She looked vindicated. Terrible tragedy, she said, picking her way through the soot. These old structures are such fire hazards. If you were in the HOA, we would have required sprinklers. Maybe this is a sign, Elias. Sell the land. We'll give you a fair price. You can retire somewhere, simpler. I looked at her. I looked at the smoldering remains of my grandfather's legacy, and I realized she truly believed she had won. She thought she had broken me. She thought I was destitute, desperate, and defeated. Get off my property, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Offer expires Friday, she called out as she walked away. That night, Martha and I sat at the kitchen table. She was terrified. "They're going to kill us, Elias," she whispered. "Maybe we should just sell." "No," I said. "They think we're weak because we're quiet. They think we're poor because we're humble. It's time to show them the difference between net worth and liquid cash." See, Cynthia made a fatal calculation error. She assumed that because I was a farmer, I was stuck. She didn't know about the 800 acres. She didn't know about the zoning laws I had memorized better than scripture. And she certainly didn't know my friends. I spent the next morning making phone calls. Not to lawyers, not yet. To pig farmers. I have 4 buddies, hard men, good men, who run commercial hog operations 3 counties over. They had been looking to expand, but land prices were too high. So, I made them a deal. I sold them 4 parcels of land, specifically the 4 parcels that directly bordered the gables at Willow Creek, for pennies on the dollar. Almost a gift. But there was a catch. 2 conditions written into the sale. 1, they could never sell the land to the HOA or anyone affiliated with it. 2, they had to run their operations at maximum legal capacity. Getting the permits took 8 months. I used every connection I had, every favor I was owed. We did environmental impact studies, groundwater assessments, air quality checks. We crossed every T and dotted every I. We made it bulletproof. And then, the pigs arrived. If you have never lived next to a commercial hog farm, let me paint a picture for you. It is a smell that has texture. It's a heavy, sour, ammonia-laced blanket that settles over everything. It gets into your curtains, your carpet, your hair. And we didn't just bring in a few pigs. We brought in 2,000. The barns went up fast, modern, efficient, and located exactly 500 yards from Cynthia's back patio, the legal minimum distance. The trucks started running at 4 a.m. Big diesels rumbling down the road, gears grinding, air brakes hissing. The squealing of the hogs at feeding time could be heard for miles. It took about 3 days for the wind to shift. I was sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, when the first whiff hit. It smelled like justice. The chaos in the gables was immediate. My phone started ringing off the hook. Cynthia left voicemails screaming, crying, threatening. "You can't do this. This is biological warfare. It smells like death." I didn't answer. Property values plummeted. You couldn't give those million-dollar homes away. Who wants a luxury estate where you can't open a window without gagging? The for sale signs started popping up like dandelions, but nobody was buying. Cynthia tried everything. She sued the pig farmers, lost, because they were fully permitted. She tried to get the county to change the zoning, failed, because this has been agricultural land for a century. She even came to my door, checkbook in hand. "I'll pay double," she begged, looking haggard, her hair messy, the arrogance gone. "I'll buy the land. Just make them stop. I don't own it anymore," I told her, leaning against the doorframe. "And even if I did, Cynthia, my friend seemed pretty happy there. Business is booming." "You're ruining us," she shrieked. "We have rights." "So do farmers," I said. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you poisoned my cattle." The end came in the fall. The HOA was bankrupt from legal fees. The residents were revolting against Cynthia, blaming her for picking a fight she couldn't win. She was cornered, humiliated, and desperate. And desperate people do terrible things. Martha was in the garden, picking the last of the tomatoes. I was inside going over the harvest logs. I heard screaming. I ran out to the side yard. Cynthia was there, standing by the trellis. But she wasn't holding a clipboard this time. She was holding a pistol. "It's all your fault," she was screaming, the gun shaking in her hand. "You ruined my life. You ruined my community. Fix it. Call them and tell them to leave." Martha was frozen, holding a basket of tomatoes, her face pale. "Cynthia," I yelled, putting my hands up, moving slowly toward them. "Put the gun down. It's over. Don't make it worse." "It's not over until I say it's over," she screamed, swinging the gun wildly. "You think you can just outsmart me? I'm the president. I make the rules." She was having a complete mental break. The facade of the suburban queen had crumbled, leaving nothing but a scared, vicious animal. "We can't fix it, Cynthia," Martha said softly, her voice trembling. "The land is sold. Just go home." "I have no home," Cynthia wailed. "It's worthless because of you." And then, she pulled the trigger. The sound was a crack, sharp and ugly against the quiet afternoon. Martha spun around and fell. The tomato basket hit the ground, red fruit rolling into the dirt. "Martha," I roared, rushing to her. Cynthia stood there, staring at the gun like she didn't know how it got there. The anger drained out of her face, replaced by absolute horror. She dropped the weapon and backed away, hands over her mouth. Sirens were already wailing. A neighbor had called the cops the second they heard the shouting. Martha was lucky. The bullet hit her collarbone, shattered it, but missed the artery and the lung. She was bleeding, in shock, but she was breathing. I held her there in the dirt, pressing my shirt against the wound, watching the deputies tackle Cynthia Vance to the ground. As they cuffed her, she wasn't screaming about bylaws anymore. She was just sobbing. I just wanted it to be perfect. I just wanted it to be perfect. The aftermath was a slow, grinding process of justice. Martha recovered, though her shoulder stiffens up when it rains. We built a new barn with the insurance money. Bigger, better, with steel beams this time. Cynthia Vance didn't get off lightly. The police found the antifreeze in her garage. They found the gas cans she used for the arson. With the shooting, the attempted murder charge stuck. She's currently serving 15 years in a state penitentiary. Her husband divorced her, sold what was left of their assets, and moved 2 states away. But the most satisfying part wasn't the prison sentence. It was the paperwork. The HOA collapsed. Bankrupt, leaderless, and despised. The remaining residents voted to dissolve it entirely. But I wasn't done. During the civil suit against Cynthia and the board members for the harassment, arson, and poisoning, my lawyer, a shark of a man who smells blood in the water, secured restraining orders. But we went further. When I sold the land to the pig farmers, and later when I bought up a few of the foreclosed homes in the development to rent out to farmhands, I added deed restrictions. Ironclad, permanent restrictions attached to the land itself. The restrictions specifically prohibit any formation of a homeowners association on the property. But the best clause? The bad actor clause. It states that no individual who served on the board of the former Gables at Willow Creek HOA can ever own, lease, or reside on the property. I effectively banned them from their own neighborhood. When the other residents finally sold their homes, mostly at a loss, I bought a few more. I put the same restrictions on those deeds too. I created a buffer zone where Cynthia and her cronies are legally prohibited from existing. The pig farms are still there. The smell has gotten better. They installed some scrubbers and methane digesters, but it's still a farm. It smells like life. It smells like work. The development is different now. It's not luxury anymore. It's working-class families, some of my farmhands, people who don't mind the mud. They wave when I drive by. They buy corn from my stand. They understand that you don't try to conquer the country. You coexist with it. I sat on the porch with Martha yesterday evening. She's healing well. We watched the sun go down over the new barn, listening to the faint, distant rumble of the hog trucks. You know, Martha said, adjusting the blanket on her shoulder. She thought we were powerless. She thought money was power. I replied. She forgot that money is just paper. Land is forever. We're still here. We're still farming. And the only thing Cynthia Vance manages now is the laundry rotation in Cell Block C. So, here's my question to you folks. When does protecting your property become a declaration of war? Did I go too far with the pigs? Or was it the only language a bully like that would understand? And what would you have done if someone came for your livelihood and your family? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. And if you think justice smells a little bit like bacon, hit that like button. Stay safe out there. And remember, never underestimate a man who buys ink by the barrel and dirt by the acre. Thanks for listening.